Hey, Mortgage Coach community, Dave Savage, and today I am interviewing Adam Black from Mississippi. What's up, Adam?
Hey Dave, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, it's first time I've interviewed you, but go ahead.
I said, yeah, first time.
First time, I'm pumped. Looking forward to get to know you better. I've seen your name several times, lots of times in our Facebook community. So thanks for digging in, sharing value. Hopefully you're getting lots of value.
Yeah, man, Mortgage Coach community is my go-to. I'll allow myself very little time on Facebook every day, and most of it is spent on that page, kind of, perusing and seeing what other people are doing.
Well, you always ask good questions, and what's inspired me to reach out to you was the recent success story where you shared that a client of yours, I think you said 65, got some value from the total cost analysis. If you don't mind just bringing that story to life in this video interview, and then we'll just talk it out.
Yeah. So Mr. Marvin is a veteran locally here, served in the military, and now runs the junior ROTC at his high school and as a teacher. Just a great guy, and one of those guys is just you latch onto immediately and become friends with. And he's been having some trouble finding a home, like what range he wanted to be in. I mean, he was all over the place, 160 up to 220, and that's average for our area, by the way. It's probably around 180, 190. But I was kind of apprehensive about sending a TCA. You just never know with someone that's a little bit older. Like he brought all his docs in. He wanted to sign everything in ink. He wasn't as tech savvy as we like, but anyway, I just knew that I had to funnel him down and get him to realize where he needed to be on price. So I just shot him a total cost analysis with 4 scenarios. I think I started at like maybe 180, 190, 200, and 210. And I just shot those over to him and said, hey, Mr. Marvin, this is Adam Black. I think this is the best way for us to drill down where you really want to be, because you're different stuff in a lot of different areas. And went through the same thing I go through with everyone. And it was so funny. He calls back a couple days later, and we're talking, and it really did help them. I mean, they kind of settled on, hey, 200 is where we want to be, max. And we were talking, and I said, well, did you watch it? I knew they had opened it up. Obviously, I got the notice, and I said, well, did you look at the TCA I sent you, and what did you think about it? And he was like, oh man, I loved it, man. And look, that video, that wasn't what I expected, but I just looked at it and it was awesome. And my wife been asking all kinds of questions. I called her and I said, now here, you watch this. This is going to answer every question you got. She hadn't had another question since. So it was great. It was really cool. He was a great guy, and it was just a great testament to just not projecting on the people what you think they're going to be like. I just would have never thought he'd have used it. And since then, I've sent him 2 or 3 more on specific properties so that they can, really down what they're wanting to do. And it's been good, really good product.
Yeah, well, that is a great story. And just the way you told the story, it's clear that you're emotionally connected with your family. It's like, their story, and now you're putting their mortgage story together and you're delivering it. Now another thing that, caught my interest, and one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on call and interview for the community, is that and I don't remember if it was in our private message or you put it online, but you put it in our Facebook group in comments where you said, hey, I was doing Mortgage Coach 50% of the time. You were kind of picking and choosing which family you'd give it to. And some epiphany happened. I don't know if it was weeks ago or months ago, but you decided you're going to start doing it 100% of the time. So 1, if you could tell that story, and 2, if you could share what was the epiphany that got you to go from 50% of the families pick and choose who gets it and 100% get it.
Yeah, it's kind of at a turning point in my career. I'm 14 years into this business, and I'm an above average LO. I close 120 to 150 transactions a year, and it's been very nice for me and my family and all. But I'm kind of at that point where we're starting to see this market compression, and things are getting tighter everywhere, competing against other banks. And of course, rate is a big subject and all. But I finally said, man, I got to be all in. If I'm going to do this, it's time to make it. It's time to really turn up my game, get to the top of it, and ride this thing on through. And then, hopefully get out of the business while I'm still young enough enjoy it. So two of the things was I read back to back. I read Extreme Ownership by Jocko and White Collar Warrior by Bill Hart. And if you haven't read them, man, read them back to back because they complement each other so well. And those were kind of the turning points for me because it was that it's time to take some ownership. It's time to quit blaming it on rates at another bank or, blaming it on so-and-so being friends with somebody because we're in a small market. So, the 18 or 20 LOs that are good at what we do, we're all fighting for the same business. Chances are our kids go to school with them, or we're in some kind of club together. So we're all, when somebody goes to buy a house, 4 or 5 of us know about it and we're competing for them. It's not like a big market where, you just don't know who you're dealing with. And I was bad about laying it off on something else, finding an excuse, so-and-so's rate was better or his kid plays soccer with them and that's how he got the deal. He talked to them all weekend about it. And I just said, man, I'm going to take ownership of this. I'm going to do the best job I can. I'm going to deliver an experience that makes people think about me down the road as well. And also, I'm going to start using the tools I've got. Like I said before, I think I even said it in response is, I'm paying $90, $100 a month for mortgage coach. It doesn't matter if I use it once, if I use it 50 times, it still costs me the same. So why not maximize that? And that was turning point. I sat down in July and I said, man, I'm going to send one to every client. I don't care if they only qualify for an FHA or they only qualify for a USDA. I'm still going to send them one, and I'm going to send that video, and I'm going to try to pull myself apart from everyone else and make myself stand out. And man, it's been overwhelming, the response. It really has. My conversion rate in the last 5 or 6 weeks has just skyrocketed. I firmly believe a lot of it goes back to the TCA.
So mortgage coach community, I mean, we talk about this. I've interviewed Jocko. I'm going to put a link down below to Jocko's Extreme Ownership interview. I've interviewed Bill Hart, actually the day he launched his book, The White Collar Warrior. We did an interview, link down below. Now, by the way, those interviews are not substitutes to reading those books. And by the way, Jocko's book, Extreme Ownership, not only have I read the book, I listened to the audiobook. And and by the way, if you haven't listened to the audiobook, I recommend you get it. It's worth it. Hearing him and Leaf tell you those stories, I mean, it connects at a whole nother level. But to me, this is what every referral-based local loan officer needs to do, is they need to take things that they're doing 50% and do it 100%, like delivering the best, borrower experience. Could you maybe just share some of, you said the responses are overwhelming. Is it just been what the customers have said to you? Is it the fact that you're not getting rate shocked as much? Could you just speak to that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, man, it's a little bit of all of it. I'll give you 2 quick examples that happened in the last 10 days that were just really affirmations of, man, you're on the right path. I was referred to a gentleman that had a construction loan of $1 million. That's huge in our area. I mean, that's the behemoth. You just don't get those. He was already locked on his interest rate at another bank, doing private banking on a 5-year arm. I literally just called him up. Hey, so-and-so told me to call you, said you might have some questions. He immediately shot back, 70 years old. I'm going to pay this thing off in 8 or 10 years. I'm going to do a 5-year, get as much of it I can pay off, do it again, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't even pull a credit report or anything. Looking back on it, it's kind of crazy, but I did have some background. I knew he had the wherewithal to do the financing. I shot him a TCA with a 5-year and a 7-year. He immediately called me back, had watched the video once again, had settled in and said, hey, my bank won't give me a 7-year. All they'll do is 5, and your 7-year is about the same rate. So he immediately gave me something. I knew I had him kind of hooked. So next morning on the way to work, and I was like, man, I want to meet this guy. So I just drove to his office, walked in, introduced myself. We had like an hour-long conversation about hunting and fishing and things like that. And in doing so, we started talking about business, and I said, I can also do a 10-year on that, since you said you were going to try to pay it off in 8 to 10, and his eyes lit up. I literally came back to my office, did the TCA, sent it to him, locked the loan that afternoon. So that's $1 million deal closing this month. Second one is kind of the same way. The guys bought a $700,000 deal, doing business with Wells Fargo because they're really the only ones in our area that do jumbos. Sent him the TCA, went back and forth for 2 or 3 days, ended up getting the deal, even though we were about an eighth of a point higher. And, it was simply because he said, hey, man, I see your commitment. I'm pressing one every time I call Wells Fargo. Maybe I shouldn't mention them on this, but we all know who they are. Pressing one every time I call them. I've got your cell phone. I'm dealing with you directly. I love these TCAs. Let's do this. So 1.7 added to my volume this month. That's going to really come in handy. So that's
love that. Now I want to touch, because I do think people look at the Mortgage Coach total cost analysis / TCA, and no doubt the more financially sophisticated, the more that client either expects it or is impressed with it. But I think, I hear stories all the time, regardless of what people's income level or financial sophistication is, they love it when you show them that you ask them great questions, and then you help them make up loan options. And maybe it was just show them how to pay off their mortgage faster so they can be debt free. So any stories on folks that are just, let's not just say the jumbo biggest loans out there, but just, everyday folks that, may barely qualify, if you could speak to some examples or some stories along those lines.
Absolutely, man. And the 2 examples I just gave you, they're anomalies. They're the big elephants that we got to kill this time instead of somebody else. But our everyday client is $150,000, $160,000, $170,000 deal. A lot of times a first-time home buyer, probably 70% of our business, and they don't have a lot of options. But just the fact that we're sitting down, taking the time to do the TCA, sending it to them, and then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll add with that is I'll go, hey, let's look at a 30-year option and a 25-year option. Every year we can pay that thing off is we're helping you build wealth for your family. Or, I'll do it and I'll add $100 a month payment to it, principal reduction to show them how much quicker. It's just spending that time with them and making sure that they understand that, you do care. What's the old saying? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what you have to be in this business now, man. The people that are going to survive are the guys that truly care about this business. And I'm passionate about it. I mean, I was put into an industry 14 years ago that I love, and I had absolutely no background in finance. And I love what I do. And I think it's not the finance part. It's just dealing with people on an everyday basis and investing in them and just being there for them. And that's why, 50% of my business also comes from past clients. So, it's, when you look at that on the national average, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's obvious you care. And anyone who's listened to this, we believe that you need to have more hopes and dreams conversations with families than rate and fee conversations. And then there's no better way than to give that family a total cost analysis to say, you know what, I listened to you. You told me your hopes and dreams. And now I put together options, graphs and charts, mobile device, video. I listened to you. I repeated back. So just Mortgage Coach community, we talk about this all the time. If you're like Adam and you've gone from 50% to 100% or whatever, 25 to 100, 70 to 100, we want to hear your stories. So please, if you got value from this conversation, like it, give us a like, share it. Adam, I always like to get tactical. As you know, you've watched, by the way, have you watched many of our videos in the Mortgage Coach community?
I've watched just about all of them, most of them multiple times. Yeah, they're very, know a little bit about.
Any favorites? Any favorite videos or articles that you can think of that have, given you some extra value?
40 Days 5, man, that's a go-to. That is just a go-to for me. I've started using it a lot and got a lot of positive response. Man, you put me on the spot.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
With Todd Bookstand, man, I use his Win by Noon planner, and it's phenomenal. Free plug there, Todd. Yeah, man, they're all good. I mean, you can go in there and just pick random videos, and you're going to get some nuggets out of all of them.
So, by the way, folks, you cut out a little bit when he was saying Jeremy Forcier's 5 questions. Putting a link down below to that. And when you listen to what Adam's doing, a lot of it is he's just implementing strategies from our, lead conversion playbook. So if you're watching this and you haven't reviewed our lead conversion playbook, link down below, really talks about how to get the best conversion. And remember, when we talk conversion, we're not just talking phone call to loan. We're talking phone call to loan to client for life. And that does not happen without a total cost analysis. So Adam, I just want to get a quick, first of all, will you share a TCA, one of your total cost analysis, and I can put a link down below on that?
Yeah, man, I'll get you one today. Sure will. Yeah.
Okay, so forward, send me one of your rep versus own, and then one of your just purchase options. So folks, there'll be samples of Adam's link down below. What does it sound like in order for the family, like when that family you were talking about, 65, they got your TCA, they clicked on it, shared it with the wife. What did you say to them? What did that script sound like so that when they got it, they were excited to click on it and they got value from it? What's that sound like?
Yeah, so scripting's my weak spot. I'm an ad lib guy, and I know I got to work on it. And I'm actually, I'm reading them every night and trying to get better at them because I'm terrible about just fumbling through stuff. And maybe that's a little of a draw of people to me just because I am so common, But yeah, usually the conversation goes, hey, Mr. Marvin, listen, I've got the information I need from you. I'm pretty sure I know which direction you want to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down and look at the direction you want to go and see if I can find any more options that I think might fit. And what I'm going to use to do that is total cost analysis. And that's some software that I've been provided by my employer. And it really quantifies what you want to do. It's not me and you just guessing. It's actual black and white numbers, and it shows us what's going to be the best option for you to use. Then I, build the TCA, shoot it over to them. As soon as I do, I've got a text that I send that's just a short key text that says, hey, your TCA is on the way. You're going to be asked to download this app. Please do so and ask any questions. I text it to them and I email it to them, as a matter of fact. So I just want it to be as easy as it can get for them. And usually my open rate is within about 4 or 5 minutes of me sending it. So I think that helps to an email and to a text. So if they're at a laptop, they can grab it. If they're at their phone, they can grab it. It's always accessible to them.
So I want to drill down that. So by the way, I think it's fine that you don't say the same thing to everybody. To me, when I say scripts, I'm just talking intentional conversations, and you have intentional conversations where, hey, I'm going to listen to you. I've got this software that's going to help me put things together. I'm going to provide you this total cost analysis. You had an intentional conversation that was descriptive, compelling, and personal. That's, to me, that's awesome. And by the way, to me, the takeaway there is the fact that you're giving them the email and the text. And folks, if you listen to Adam, he's not doing it from a person of a sales person. He's doing it as someone that wants to make it easy for the family to get the content. Like if they're on their mobile phone, he wants it, make it easy. And if they're getting it from a desktop or they prefer email, he just, when you listen to this guy, he's a teacher. He cares about people, and he's just making it easy. And that way you're killing it. So one more ask, Adam. If you don't need to share the actual text and email with a client's contact information, although if you do, I'll blank it out. But would you mind just for me sharing like just a screenshot of the text? Because you know how I am. I want to get the story inspirationally, and then I want to get the tactics so we can play it forward in the community.
Yeah, man, definitely. I'll send both of those to you along with the 2 TCAs.
So let's wrap up on this. Please keep asking questions and sharing stories in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. And if you want to do it, by the way, this interview has been awesome. If you've got another idea or strategy to share, reach out, Adam, because you really do, I think, epitomize someone that's, hey, you're a top producer. If you're closing over 120 transactions a year, you're beyond the top 1%. You're clearly in the top 1%, but you are fine tuning your game. So I want more stories like this. This is good stuff.
Good.
All right, my friend. So folks, if you like this, again, like it, share it. And Adam, really appreciate you, man. Looking forward to our next conversation together.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Have a great day, man.
You too.